So a couple of videos ago, I did a service on this Bill Dance version of the Zebco 33K, and indicated that so it has a quick release spool, and the little the tabs, or I don't know what you want to call them, but there's a groove on the underside of the spool that locks into a plate, and the grooves were broken, so the spool is worthless. And I said, well, I'll see about ordering a new spool. Well, not so easily done. There's just not a lot of I didn't find any spools like that available for this reel, and I don't want to end up taking and buying another reel just so I can steal from one to save another. And I really don't care about the quick release spool. And so I'm going to show you a way, or at least how I did it, to convert it to a standard spool, which are a lot more common than the quick release spools. Now, this version of the 33K is the same pretty much, so far as I can tell, as the, I can't remember if this one might have had a different drag clicker. There might be some minor differences, but these are all from the same general time frame. So I got a Folds of Honor, a Lady. What is this one? The 33KL for Lady. This one's the 33K FOHA, Folds of Honor. And this one is just the standard 33K. And none of these have the quick release spool. It was only special ones. The Bill Dance is one of them, and I think there was a platinum reel from this vintage that had the quick release spool. So I've already done this, but I'm going to show you what I did. So I'll take off the cover and the spinner head. And okay, this is what was broken. So these little things are supposed to be a tab or a lip on that, so that it locks in place on this plate here, and those pieces of metal have broken off. So there's nothing left to get this spool to engage without just popping right off. There's no E-clip or anything up here. It was a clip-on, so that you could just quick turn, take it off, and put on another spool with a different test line on it. And the underside is totally different than a standard spool. So there's a standard spool. You can see it's not cupped like this one is. So at any rate, so what I did, took off that, and then take off the E-clip, which on the quick release is below the spool, and the groove for the E-clip is below the spool. Take off this plate, which primary purpose was as something that locks into this now broken spool. Take that off, and then just do sort of a normal drag stack. So you've got, oh, come on. I'm going to take this whole pressure plate off. So you got the pressure plate that fits down in its groove. Okay. And then you've got this thin little drag washer that fits down inside the pressure plate. Those are all parts. The only part I'm changing out is the spool. These are all parts that were present with the Bill Dance. Then you've got a Teflon. Then you're going to put on the standard 33K spool. And so that'll go on like that. And then you're going to put on your Teflon washer followed by the keyed washer. The problem now is you don't have a groove to put your E-clip in there to hold it all into place. So, am I missing? I think I'm missing a drag washer here. Yeah, there's supposed to be another. I forgot to put this other. out of there. There's supposed to be yet a fat drag washer over that one. So at any rate, what I did was I decided to go ahead and turn the drag about halfway between the lowest and highest setting. Got the lower drag washers in place, put the new spool on, put the Teflon and final metal washer on, and then I took, you want to keep this level as you're doing it because this kind of wobbles back and forth. Keep that level, and then I took a X-Acto knife, and as close as I could get to that last metal drag washer, I scored the spindle, because what I ended up doing then was took a Dremel tool. I scored it, and then I followed that score line and took a Dremel tool, just the cut wheel, and just cut a groove in there to take the E-clip. So that goes on there. Your Teflon washer, your metal drag washer, and now get on there. Now you can take your E-clip and clip it in here above the spool like a normal reel, and that's going to hold all that into place. And so I back off the drag, very little drag, wind it all the way up to maximum drag, heavy drag. So another thing you can do if you don't have a standard 33K standard spool, but you still have the broken quick release spool from like a Bill Dance 33K or a Platinum 33K, you got to get rid of this, whatever the heck this ratchety looking thing up here is, so that that's flat and you can get your drag washers and E-clip on there. So I'm going to take a Dremel tool, I'm going to cut this off, make it like this. Okay, there you have it. So I removed that thing. It took a while on that Dremel. It took 10 minutes or so on that Dremel cutting wheel, but it came off. Take a Dremel sanding barrel, smooth that out so you've got a full contact surface for your washer. Now this is cupped here, but I tried it on the reel. I'll show you, put it together and show you the drag work, and it picks it up. It's probably only picking up the drag washers around the edge, but it's working. And so I just ground off what was left of those tabs that had broken, and cut that thing off and ground that off. Not going to put the plate back in where it was. You may not have to use this plate at all. I think I cut my groove a little too high, so I need some extra drag washer in there so I can get maximum drag out of it. But you get your drag washers in there, put your spool on, and you hear it clicking and so on. And then you've got a Teflon. I'm going to go ahead and grease this surface here. And Teflon, and a little bit of grease there. And then you've got your metal keyed, where's my little slot? There it is, keyed washer. Now in my case, I think I made my groove a little too high. So I'm just going to use this plate as another drag washer. And then I'm going to make sure my drag's all the way at the lowest setting and get my E-clip back in that groove that I made. And so there's low drag. It turns really easily. Turns a little harder. And then if I wind it all the way up, it's really hard to turn. So it's working. It's working fine. But I had that groove, I made that groove maybe a little high, especially with that. And now with this one, not so much, because that doesn't have the cupped base to it. But if you're going to modify the original quick release the way I did, it's going to be cupped a little bit, which is going to drop things down a little bit. So I just used that plate that they had on there to catch this spool before it broke, and that gave me enough resistance that the drag's working fine. And so that's another option if you don't want to, or you can't find a standard 33K spool. You can just modify the one you have in it if it's broken, like in this particular case it was. So that's my way of not having to spend years or however long it would take to find just the spool. And if I did, would it cost me as much or half as much as the whole reel of making this reel serviceable? And I really don't care about whether it's a quick release spool, because in the final analysis I usually have multiple rods with different test lines on them. But you had to take out this plate, and if you guessed wrong in terms of setting your drag at the middle before you scored it, you can always add some more Teflon washers, to tighten things up a little bit more if you're not getting enough on the maximum drag. But then you take and put your spinner head back on, and of course, getting a parts reel of a regular Zebco 33K is a lot cheaper than trying to get a parts reel, and a lot easier than trying to get a Bill Dance parts reel of the same vintage. So that's how I solved that problem. Now I can use this reel and don't have to spend an arm and a leg and wait forever to find a quick release spool. So hope that's helpful for any of you that may have one of these. And it wouldn't shock me if that was a weak part that commonly broke. So maybe you have one that's broken and you can't use it. Maybe you have a platinum with the same problem. This is at least one way to make the reel usable again. So that's all for today. I'll see you next time.